Hey everybody, welcome back to Storm Champ. Today is a special episode of Storm Champ as we have our first in-studio guest here. The show's happy to welcome Sean Onstad to the show. He is my trainer and has quickly become a really close personal friend of mine. And he's got an amazing story that he's willing to share with us. So Sean, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
I want to talk a little bit.
Oh, gotcha. Gotcha.
Good. We appreciate it. Absolutely. And one of the things that kind of drew me to you and drew me to like talking about your story is your willingness to be open about it and to kind of be vulnerable, right? Yeah. And it's a really compelling story about some of the things that you were going through. But what I kind of want to start with is when it comes to mental health and dealing with like depression and anxiety, why do you think it's so tough for people to talk about it? And it's specifically like, why is it so tough for males to talk about it?
That's always a good question. I think in today's society, or even like in any kind of like perspective of it, just us men have had to be like the leader of the household. We always had to be strong-willed, strong-minded and everything. So to have that vulnerability and being able to share that kind of like pain that we've gone through, it's really hard because we don't really want to show weakness. Again, right. We have to be a leader. We have to be strong. We have to be, even on those bad days when there's like going through like, I don't know, troubles at home, trouble with kids and stuff, like we still have to be mentally tough enough to handle it all. And if we show that kind of weakness, I think we don't want it to put more stress onto the family or anything like that, or into the other aspects of our life. So I think it's just one really thing just hard to talk about. I know, like one example is when I told my dad, because in my family, we have a lot of history of drug addiction, alcoholism, and stuff like that. So a lot of my family struggles and deals with the same thing. And past couple of years, my sister, one of my older sisters, has been really struggling with her battle with depression and anxiety and stuff like that. And I remember having a conversation with him, and it's one of those things where I kind of got a little upset with him because he's telling me, he's like, "Oh, you have to be really supportive. You need to be like there for her." And I kind of, as bad as it sounds, like I wouldn't say snapped, but I got really upset because I was like, "Dad, like I've been dealing with this stuff for 4 or 5 years now, while all I was in college, and I don't think like I don't want to put any blame on him, right. But I was just like, well, where were you guys when I was struggling?" Right. And he's just like, "I had no idea." And it's just one of those things where that was kind of the moment where it's like, maybe I should be talking about this now. Like if I need help and I need someone's support, like that, like you have to speak up. You have to be, now you have to be a man about it.
Sure.
Like, you have to like introduce those struggles, because when I told him, he was just like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So, again, it's just one of those things because you don't want to show weakness playing. Especially being like an athlete all my life, playing football all the way through college and stuff like that. You'll always have the persona of being like that tough guy and stuff like that. And then, I guess like another one of the examples is just even like the profession I'm in now, being a personal trainer and a coach and everything like that. I remember when I first, when I first shared my story, I went into this CrossFit gym that I was training at, and the next day, and one of the members pulled me aside, and he was just like, "Hey, I just want to thank you for sharing that. Like, my son has been dealing with a bunch of like addiction problems and depression and anxiety and all that other stuff." And then we got to talking, and then the one thing that kind of like blew me away again, which like kind of was a catalyst to help me continue to share my stories, is like, when you look at you, you think like, the first like reaction and perception of it is like, "Oh, that guy's got everything going for him. He's he's a big, tall, good-looking guy, strong. Like he's got a beautiful girlfriend. He's got a nice car. Like everything. Like everybody thinks like, oh, he's got everything. There's nothing wrong with him." And then when you present that and bring it to light, like you have those demons just like everybody else. It's kind of like, oh wow. And so it's been a real motivator for me to just kind of share it as hard as it's been, and kind of beat that I can't even think of the word, but that perception of like just males not being able to deal with it and stuff like that. So what
compelled you to share?
I was kind of like sitting around the table one day, and this was actually when I was like I shared it with like really close personal friends and stuff.
Sure.
And I was just thinking, again, after I had that conversation with my dad, I was just sitting there at dinner with my ex-girlfriend at the time, and we were talking about it, and I was just like, I just feel like it's time for me to share this. I think it's time for me to let people know what I've been struggling with, because again, I hid it for so long, or just kind of kept my struggles on like to myself. None of my family really knew, like none of my coaches, none of my teammates, maybe like my close best friend and college roommate knew about it, but I was just like, I think it's just time. And the response and everything I got from it was just amazing. I just never thought I thought maybe I'd reach like a couple people and like, on Facebook, it would get like a like here and there,
Sure.
but like the reaction back from it was pretty amazing. So it's just one of those things where it's just having that extra little bit of support from people to have that courage to be like, all right, let me put this down on paper and just kind of be vulnerable with everybody and share like what my struggles have been, because you never know what people are going through. We walk through the day, and I think the biggest thing with me, I was like, again, in my job, like you have to always bring the energy. I always have to bring a smile. So that's where people are like really confused. They're like, oh, you're going through this? That's crazy and stuff like that. So just being able to show people like, yeah, like I may be like that all the time, but like I'm fighting every day to stay positive and stay happy and get out of bed too. So it's just one of those things where it's just having that extra support was just really what drove me to kind of share my story.
What was that like when you got the story written? And just for context for me, like the first time I saw anything from you was there was like a Instagram post from like a few months back, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe June or something.
Yeah.
The first time I saw it.
Yeah.
And so what was it like when you got the post written and you were about to hit send or submit or whatever?
It was very emotional. I mean, writing it up and like, again, reflecting on everything, and again, just trying to put into words without it being too, because there is a lot of religious stuff that helped me get through it and stuff, like my journey back to God and getting baptized again, and just being reborn in that sense. But it was very emotional, and then there was a part where I'm reading it over and over again. I probably read it through 10 times, make sure, because I'm dyslexic too, so I'm trying to make sure the typos are out of there and just make sure it's like, and I'm not the best writer, like English is not my strong suit, so I'm making sure like there's no grammatical errors and stuff like that. But it was emotional, but I was just like, I know something's good is gonna come of it. Like there's a reason why I've had this on my heart and why God put it on my heart. So it's just, nut up and just hit the button and just see what happens, see who needs to hear that story. And I think that's the biggest thing, is just what I tell people now when they come and reach out to me and stuff like that. I'm just like, share your story, as hard as it may be, there's people out there that need that extra voice or need that, like just that support, and just hearing or just seeing that like, oh, I'm not alone. Like they're struggling with it too. Could just, you never know whose life it might save, or who's like, it might just get through someone like through another day and everything like that. So
yeah. I remember when I shared my story for the first time, or started to share it a bit, and I was terrified, like hitting that submit button, and then I read it 1,000 times, right? Yeah. And then you get to that place of like, damn, people are going to think I want attention and all this other stuff. And you're just like, no, you know what?
Yeah.
And then I hit submit, and then I must have been shaking for like 20 minutes after, right? Like, holy shit, did I just do this? It's going to be on the internet forever kind of deal, right? But you do it in the hopes that it's going to help one person. Like you may never even know it, right? You'll never know it. But that one person that was meant to hear it or read it or whatever, that makes it worth it.
Yeah. And to go off what you're saying about, and this is where I kind of feel like it's sad within like society and everything like that, like what you said about like it just bringing attention. I remember when I was sharing my story with somebody, like we just had like having food and stuff, and I was like, they're asking me about my tattoos and everything like that, and I was sharing them stories, and then I was just like, the response was like, anytime I see someone and I post something about that, I always just think it's just for attention. I'm just like, how is it for attention? Like if I want to, like I could go on Instagram and post a shirtless pic if I really want attention. Like, say like this is not to get any attention. This is just trying to inspire, trying to motivate, just to try to help people, like I would never go out of my way to just be like, hey, look at me, like I'm fishing for compliments and stuff like that. Like, and I feel like when people do that, or when they're trying to fish for attention, it's like, then I wouldn't say they haven't gone or anything. They don't know what it's actually like, right? Or they're kind of like falsifying or whatever. But Yeah, it's just I think that's just crazy that people think like I would post this out there
Sure.
just to like get some people like a post and stuff. I don't know, but yeah,
You know, the thing is I think people out there do that, right?
yeah,
People out there do post for attention, and then of course they get the judgment, or you know, and I'm guilty of judging people too. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I see somebody kind of saying something on Facebook or whatever, maybe sounds like they're whining, or
yeah,
and it's like, what I realize is like, so my judgment of that person was really about me and like my own insecurities about
Yeah.
it. And at the end of the day, if this person is going to post and they want attention, who fucking cares? Like, that's what they need in that
Yeah.
moment. So let them be, right? It's not, you know, it's not for us to judge. It's not for me to judge. It's just like, be more like sympathetic. It's like, I'm not sure what's happening in this person's life, but, you know, pray for them or send them positive vibes or whatever and just move on. Like, just, you know, don't engage if that's not something you want to engage with. And that's part of the problem is like, we get caught up in our own head and and we don't want to actually like help somebody do it. You mentioned earlier your conversation with your dad about you know, where were you during WIT, and he's like, I didn't know, right? So let's peel that back a little bit. Like, what could have been done differently for him to know? Was it that you weren't sharing with him, or was he just not seeing the cues and hearing, like, kind of seeing it happen?
It's probably just a combination of both, but that also goes to like my general relationship with my father.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my dad. I love my dad. He's whenever people ask me about my relationship with him, I'd say he's a great father. Like, he provided with us, taught us how to work hard, taught us all these life lessons. But when it came to like, I hate saying this, but it's the truth. When it came to being a dad and like doing those little things and father-son bonding and like doing that stuff, he wasn't really there.
Sure.
So like our relationship was kind of like at that line. So, and it was just really hard to open up to my parents and stuff like that, because I've always kind of just been by myself and kind of, I wouldn't say raised myself, but a lot of things I've learned through my life I've had to teach myself, which is fine. Like, I've gotten pretty far in life with it, but yeah, it may have just been like, they know I was struggling at school with the football team and academics and stuff, but it was just, I don't think they took enough interest because they had so much else going on. Again, at the time, my mom was battling cancer and stuff, so there was so much more on his mind about paying bills and stuff like that too. And that's probably another reason why I didn't open up, because there was so much other stress in his life and their life that I was just like, you know,
you didn't want to add to it.
I didn't want to add to it. I didn't want him to be worrying about my mom, like dropping her off at chemo, to worrying about if I'm going to be okay making it through like another week of football and school and stuff like that. So it was definitely a combination of the two. But you know, if I could go back, I would probably, as soon as like I started having, like, I've gotten to that state of like that terrible depression and thoughts of suicide and stuff, I probably would have went to him. But then it also goes back to just the relationship I had with him. I just didn't feel like, and he's a retired Marine, so he's a very tough guy. The whole family's full of Marines, so it's just, again, as it goes back to that persona of like, we got to be mentally tough and just push through it and go through and stuff like that. So
that's the thing that kind of kills us, right? For those of us that are in the military, particularly like, you know, some of the other services in like Marines, like they have to live up to this expectation, like, we can't show vulnerability, we can't show weakness, and we have to just kind of suck it up and just, you know, deal with it. And like, if you're dealing with PTSD and all that, like, they tell you, it's like, you got to work through that. Like, you got to be able to talk through it and work through it, and then figure out ways to like help the people around you get through it if they're going through it as well. So it keeps falling. I'll fix that for next time. So let's talk a little bit about kind of that day, right? So you wrote some things, and this is what kind of caught my eye. So I want to read something really quick, and then kind of get your thoughts around you know, what happened. So you wrote this, and I quote, I put the gun in my mouth, finger on the trigger, ready to finally not feel any pain. Pulled, and all I heard was a click. So talk to me about what led up to that moment and kind of what happened when you heard the click.
I mean, leading up to before, well, I tried to kill myself twice. My freshman year of college, I was going through a lot. Again, my mom was battling cancer and had a brain tumor and all this stuff. So that was really tough. I was really struggling academically. I almost got kicked off the football team because of my academics and stuff like that. And that was all I ever had was football and school and stuff. So I was struggling with both, away from home.
Yeah.
Didn't really have a lot of friends and stuff like that. And I had surgery, so I couldn't train, I couldn't play, I couldn't do nothing. So I just kind of got into this really bad funk, and it was just, I remember that night I tried to overdose on my pain medication and everything like that. I ended up not going through with it because I know I was a little mentally tougher at that time. So I was just like, I can't do this. Like, my roommate's there. What is it going to happen if he wakes up? Like, what about my mom? What about my dad? So that helped me get through that point. Leading up to this attempt, I came back from college. I was struggling to find a job at the time. I found out that I wasn't going to graduate on time because of because I didn't pass intermediate Japanese. So I failed the class by 2 points. So I lost a high-level internship at a big five firm for an accounting. Lost that internship. Couldn't find any work. Couldn't do anything, and I was more ashamed of that, not being able to graduate on time, and not being able to do something with my life, because I was so independent and so driven to be successful. Like, the last thing I thought I was going to be like, oh, I'm not moving back home. Like, I'll have a job, I'll be on myself. But so I think it was just the level of disappointment I felt in myself, how like I felt like a failure, kind of not being able to have that moment with my family, being able to be one of the first kids to graduate from college, and then just being stuck at home, like doing nothing, just kind of alone with my thoughts and everything like that. And it just led to me feeling a failure, feeling down on myself. And I mean, there's more things going to it. It's just, especially like when I at the college football program that I played at, it was a good program, but I think some things were done poorly, by the aspect of how some things were communicated to players. And I went to talk to a sports psychologist one time, and she was telling me, he's like, they did some research and found that the way some coaches approach in a talk, like in a demeaning manner, can have such a negative effect on the players, to the fact that where it's worse than a concussion, like the damage to its brain. Because and what I tell people is like, you go somewhere for 4 years and you keep hearing like, oh, you suck, like that's not good enough, you'll never be good enough. You hear that all the time, over and over again. You start to believe it, and then that kind of just sticks with you. And that's probably what drove me into a funk.
Especially at that point in your life, you're talking through like 18 to 22, right? And very impressionable time of your life.
Yeah, exactly. And then you're just there all the time. That's like your job. It's like a 50-hour a week job, and you're hearing that you're awful, you suck, and you bust your ass every day, and like it's tough to hear. And it's kind of what probably drove me deeper down the hole into that darkness and everything like that. So again, just like that feeling of failure, feeling of like disappointing everybody, and like not being as successful as I wanted to be at that point in life. Granted, I was like 22 and out of college, like who's that successful right away? So, but it, in my mind, it was just like, I'm not worth this life. Like I have all these opportunities, and I keep like I'm failing, and nothing was going right. And I thought I had a lineup for success, and like nothing was happening. So just that night, I was home, or that morning I was home alone. My dad was off to work. My mom was, I think she was traveling with family. I can't remember. She's probably up in Pennsylvania, but I know I just knew where my dad's guns were because I bought him a gun safe. So I knew where the keys were. I knew where everything else was. Just went to my room and, just sat there on the edge of my bed, just thinking of everything. Again, I'm like in tears, just thinking about what I'm about to do, and just thinking of like how everybody's gonna feel. And I was just like, but before, when I was a freshman in college, when I felt that those positive thoughts, or just those thoughts of like, no, you can't do this, what about them? I could overcome that, but I was so weak mentally at the point, and so deep down in the whole depression, like I couldn't overcome that. And it's just when I was just like, just do it, just put it in the mouth, and just do what you need to do. And again, it's just kind of not feeling that pain anymore, not feeling that struggle of like, what am I going to be with my life? What's my purpose in life and stuff like that. And I was just like, I can't keep going wondering, knowing what I'm going to do.
Right.
So I just kind of, put it in my mouth and pulled the trigger. And luckily at that moment, there was nothing in the chamber. So, it was just one of those points where, I just didn't want to feel that pain. I couldn't see a light at the end of the tunnel, right. So I tried to create my own, and that was the only way I could think of the way out and everything like that. So,
After the first attempt, did you try to get any help or talk to anybody?
I went to counseling at my school, but it wasn't the best, and it was only kept like. And for me, at that time, I was into that like instant gratification, like if it's not,
feel better now.
I want to feel better now. Like I shouldn't be feeling this way. Like there's, like I want to, like enjoy my life. I'm a young kid. Like I should be able to kick this. Like it should be over quick. And I just went a couple of times to my counselors at school, and then after like 4 sessions, I was like, this ain't working. Like either it's like I'm not connecting with them, they're not connecting with me, or like I just need to suck it up and fucking move on.
Now, when do you like, if like looking back on that time frame, like when did you start dealing with kind of sad, getting depressed? Maybe did some of the anxiety started to kick in? Was that in college, or was it like before college?
I can actually remember it kind of started not being like mentally aware, emotionally aware of where I was, but now reflecting back on it, it probably started my senior year of high school, to be honest. It started with, as shocking as this may sound, some bullying and and stuff like that, like my senior year of high school. And again, that's when my mom started to get really sick. Sure. So there's so much emotional stuff going on. And I remember like driving to school one day, and that was probably like my first like suicidal thought. I was just driving, and I was like, what would happen if I just ran my car right into this tree right now? Like, would anybody care? Would anybody miss me and stuff like that? Like, maybe I should just punch the accelerator and just drive into this tree, So that, I think it started there, but again, I wasn't aware. Like I was like starting to get depressed and everything like that. So again, that kind of stuff also runs in my family. So it's stuff that I've always had again figure out myself, that like, okay, like I have to avoid doing this, I have to avoid doing that, because if I go down that rabbit hole, it's only going to get worse and stuff like that. So
then as you're going through, the first attempt happened, you get a little bit of counseling, didn't really work out for you. What did you try anything throughout the, that, because there was a couple years, I think, between the two, right? Between the first attempt and the last one, right? Mm-hmm. So then what happened in between? If you weren't really going to counseling, were you doing anything to try to get out, or you just kind of kept sinking deeper?
I kind of kept sinking deeper. It's not as bad as it was.
Right.
Like my sophomore year of college and my junior year weren't too bad. I kind of put most of my like effort and like those times where I feel like depressed, I took that all out with either training for football or at practices, or just like through academics and stuff like that. So I kind of felt kind of more accomplished by succeeding in those kind of areas, like getting myself back up in there. But I know there's still something wrong.
Right.
At the end of the day, when I'm just still feeling like I'd wake up and I'm like, I fucking hate this place. I want to leave. Like I just like, I can't be here anymore, and all that other stuff. So like, and then
so was it more like distraction than you were distracting yourself?
I was just trying to just stay as busy as possible, like in my books, in the weight room as much as I could, in the film room as much as I could, just trying to take my mind off where my mind wanted to go, which was into those negative thoughts and those dark places. So I
think that's really important, right? Like, in this was true of me as well, is like, you distract yourself by other things, whether it be work or family or, like you said, school and athletics or whatever. Mm-hmm. But if you're not dealing with those emotions, like if you're not truly dealing with them, like they're still going to be there, and you're still going to be lingering in the back of your head. And in those quiet moments, like the quiet moments were the worst for me. Like all of a sudden you go right back into that dark place, and you're like, what the fuck, I can't get out of here. Like, what's happening, right? And then it's like, okay, I'm going to go do something. And then some people distract themselves with like TV or porn or whatever, right? And it's like, now you got to like lean into it all, like just truly get into it. And whether you do it by yourself or you find a trusted person to talk to or a counselor or whatever, it's like it's so important for you to really understand what's happening. Because if you're still waking up or like going to bed like, fucking hate this place,
Yeah.
something's wrong. Like something's really, really wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
So what in the So in the day that this happened and you heard the click, and like what happened after that?
I kind of just burst into tears. Just knowing, again, in my mind and my mindset at that time when I heard the click, I was just like, some expletives. I was like, you effing P word. Like, you couldn't even do this right, You know, like you had one thing you wanted to do and you can't even do that right. So
you
it's
had one job.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You had one job and you couldn't even go through with it, you freaking loser. And no, and just again, like that's kind of where a lot of people would say my come to Jesus moment, but it's just it was really quiet in my house, and I know I was alone. There's no cars in the driveway. It's just me at home, and I remember falling to my knees, crying, and then it kind of just, that's where I felt like I heard God for the first time. Right. It's just, I just remember hearing him tell me he loves me, and then, it's time to start actually living your life.
Yeah.
It's just, but I know I had to like let go of those kind of, those demons in my head and work through it, and then just trust in his path for me and where it was going to lead me and stuff. And that's where I think I also kind of struggled so much in my life, was like I tried to make everything happen. I tried to do everything by myself,
right?
Because that's all I ever knew. It was just I had to learn how to do this, learn how to do that, and I always had to rely on just myself because I felt like no one cared and no one wanted to help me. So it felt like just letting go of that and just trusting in the process and just being able to ask for help and being strong enough to ask for help and stuff like that was where kind of what happened. But yeah, after that moment, it's just, again, just falling to my knees, and I was just like hysterically crying because I was just, one, I can't believe I was that close to ending my own life, and two, it's just, if I would have done that, like I think it was just coming to like what would have happened, like my dad walking in and seeing that, and like his only son, and like and stuff like that, like dead on the floor and stuff like that. So
yeah, you wrote something really powerful. I didn't load the gun, and after that realization, I fell to the floor in tears. Then in the silent house all alone, all I heard was a whisper, "I love you. Now you are ready." And I was like, man, so I had my own, I'm not going to call it come to Jesus. I had my own God moment once, and mine was a little different. And I can't, if you've never had one, I can't explain the feeling you get, but when you hear that voice and you just know like, holy shit, there's something else out there. Right. And like, it fills you up in such a powerful way. Yeah. And it's like this peace that kind of washes over you. And it doesn't mean, like, at least for me, it didn't mean like everything was gone, but it meant that there's more left. Right. And like, okay, cool. That happened. Now let's figure this shit out. And let's, what are the steps we need to take to get better? And that was like my moment. And it sounds like, you had a similar moment. So after you heard that, like, what was the path back to God for you?
For me, is just getting, more involved with my church, and everything like that. I ended up moving out of my parents' house. I got with my brother-in-law, Alex, who I'm really close with. He introduced me to this new church out in Manassas called Chapel Springs. So I attended there for a while and was getting really into just listening to podcasts with sermons and everything, just trying to get close and trying to learn that, like, because all of my life I just felt alone and unloved and stuff, but knowing that he was there and he loves me unconditionally was a lot of the things that got me through the day. Like, no matter what I did, how I sinned, or whatever whatever happened in my life, I knew, like, at the end of the day, he was there and he loved me, and that's all that was kind of my saving grace for most of my time and most of my way back. And then after getting more involved and, again, just getting closer to him, I just decided to get baptized again, and I felt like reborn. And that was a big, big step in my life, and it definitely kind of helped a lot. I mean, I still have those bad days and everything. Everybody does, but it was just that a big step for me. Again, just constantly reminding myself, like, you may not feel loved right now, but there's someone up there that loves you unconditionally, and he has you here for a reason and everything like that.
Yeah. Actually, let's talk about that though. So, the bad days now. What's the coping mechanisms? How do you get through having a bad day?
I kind of put a lot of it into my training as well. I mean, working out and being with like-minded individuals really helps me a lot.
Sure.
It's staying positive, and accomplishing my minor goals for the day. But I also, one big thing I have in my house, like in my bathroom, I have 9 little sticky notes that I have, just constant reminders. I have three goals that I want to accomplish within my training, 3 daily, like kind of like inspirational things,
Sure.
and then 3 daily reminders. One of like the training ones are like just things I want to accomplish in my Olympic lifting career. The top 3 are just kind of like just saying like you're the best, like you're a beast, like one day you'll be an Olympian and everything like that.
Yeah.
The other 3, like the constant reminders, are just like, inspire somebody today, be the best coach you can be a better man today. Those are the things that when I see those first things waking up in the morning is just really what gets me going and kind of helps me drive to have a good day. And also I've kind of learned to not linger so much on the bad things that happen. No. I know there's a quote, it's like, if you had, was it $84,600 in your bank account and someone stole $10 from you, would you really be mad? And it's just like, what do you do with those 84,600 seconds in a day is what really, and that was one thing that really I struggled with in college and through high school. Was like I was such a negative person. Like I'd let, if one thing went wrong that day, I would just linger on it all day and let it affect me, and it would just carry over to home and like schoolwork and everything like that. And it's just, that's the one thing I do. If something bad happened, vent it out, just let it out, vent it to somebody, and just fucking move on. Like that was the biggest thing. But again, just being able to open up more. Again, if something's bothering me, or something does bother me and I feel really affected by it, I don't have any hesitation of just being like, hey, this is what's going on. Like I need to get that off my chest. That's one of my coping mechanisms. But also just, again, finding things like that genuinely make you happy during the day. For me, it's working out and training. Sure. Like I have goals that I want to accomplish, and knowing that I check off that box that day. Like even if I had a crap day and I still got a 2-hour training session in, like that's a good
win.
It's a win for me. That's a little baby step for me, and everything like that. So
the stickies that you have on your mirror, some days do you believe it, and other days you don't?
Oh yeah. There's there's definitely days when like, again, I'm one of my other, like I would say one of my flaws is like I'm super hard on myself. I just expect so much out of myself. So when I look at the sticky notes, especially at the top ones where it says like I'm a beast and like you're the best, I'm just like, no, I'm not. I suck, like I had a crap lifting session yesterday. Like I know I'm not the best, but you take the good with the bad.
Sure.
Again, it's just finding those. Even if I do have a bad day, maybe I had a great training session, or maybe I had a good alpha class, or like the kids had a great class and stuff. So I'll try to find as much positive into the day at the end of the day with the reflection. Cause I always try to reflect on the end of my days and trying to say like, hey, what went wrong, what went right. And even if a lot went wrong and I had, again, like one kid PR on some kind of lift or some kind of sprint test, then I'll be like, hey, that's a win for the day.
Yeah, I think it's important to point that out. So for other people that do affirmations, and I have not exactly sticky notes on the mirror, but I do something a little bit different with like a list and whatever. And you're not always going to feel it. Yeah. There's no way. Like you don't feel it every single day, but every so often you'll catch yourself like, yeah, I'm a fucking beast. Like I did fucking awesome yesterday. And it's like those little daily wins that will help you get through that tough day the day before, or maybe like something's gonna suck that day, right? Because you have to have a hard conversation or whatever, or work's gonna suck. But just keep looking at them and keep kind of envisioning them, and you will get there. I promise you will feel it, even when it's like, this is stupid, I shouldn't be doing this stuff.
And the biggest thing for me is like what I learned from one of my other therapists is don't just write it down and then when you look at it, just say it in your head. When you look at it again, speak those words that you wrote down. Like, because spoken words have such more of effect on yourself and your mental health than just sitting there like, yep, okay, good to go, see you later. No, like, sit there and speak those words, put those words out into the universe and speak them into existence, because it definitely has a huge effect on your mental state and your mental like just mental toughness and everything like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What can family and friends do better for people that are dealing with mental illness, in your opinion?
This is a big one for me and my family, because my mom or my dad and my stepmom are just like, no, like you're just upset, you know, like you're not, like, you're fine, you'll be okay. So if you have like family members, or you are a family member listening to this and you have someone dealing with this, just try your best to put yourself in their shoes and just try your best to understand where they're coming from. You may not understand. You might have a great life. You might better have like better mental stability than they do, or better emotional awareness, and can fight through things better than they can. But you just have to do your best to try to understand what they're going through, and just sit there and listen. And if you have advice from how you get through your days, give them that. But at the end of the day, they just need some ears to talk to. They get them off their chest, because they feel like the weight of the world is on them and they don't have anybody there to help. So I feel just having those just ears to talk to is just a big thing. And then if you have that advice, but at the end of the day, it's just try to understand as best you can, and just sit there and listen and do what you can. Just don't ever be like, no, you're fine. Like, don't worry about it. Like that judgment piece is going to make them shut down even worse.
Absolutely. Yeah. Judgment and expectations, right? Yeah. Like, if you can go and talk to a person that's going through a rough day without judgment and without any kind of expectations around how, if it was me, this is how I would handle it, and all this other stuff. It's like, no, just throw all that shit out the window. It's like, how can I sit here with you? How can I sit in this darkness with you? What do you need? Yeah. Maybe it's an encouraging word, right? Sometimes maybe it's tough love. Like, every once in a while, the tough love stuff may work. It depends on the situation. But at the end of the day, like, if you can go in just open-minded, no judgment, no expectations, and I think that, and sometimes just to listen, I think that would go such a long way for that person to open up, to feel vulnerable, but to do it in a safe place. And I think that's the part of the problem, is like finding those people that we can be safe with and actually talk to and be open with and real with, right? So,
and like I had a experience with a young lady at the gym the other day, a couple months ago, months ago. I can't remember the exact
It
day.
all blurs together
Once you get in that schedule. It's just called a Groundhog Day. But she came to me because she knew that I was very open about my stuff, and she felt comfortable talking to me. And she was talking more about her health and her body image, and how she was dealing with like an eating disorder and everything like that. I had no personal experience with that. I eat so freaking much, it's ridiculous. But I knew my sister did, so how I approach it was like, I told her how my sister fought through it, how I helped my sister through it. And I just told her, I was like, hey, listen, I have bad days too. Like, the bad days may never go away. Hopefully they do, and I pray that they do. But you have those good days and those bad days. But at the end of the day, like kind of what we just said, you have to find that little bit of lightness within the dark on those bad days, and just keep grinding through. I told her that she's like, I gave her props for sharing it with me. I told her, like, you're a very strong woman. You're loved by so many. Like, you're going to have those bad days, but don't be so hard. Like, try not to be so hard on yourself. I know as hard as it is, because I can't really
say. Because you do it yourself.
Because I do it myself. But it's just, again, having those ears and giving that little bit of encouragement, and just saying that, like, I appreciate you. I love you. Like, if you need me, I'm always here for you. But you're like, if you have anything struggling, just come to me and we can talk it out. But I think, and I could tell, like, when she walked through the door, and I'm good at sensing this now when people are having those bad days, it's just like, she's always like really high spirited. She's ready to work out. We're always like kind of like jokingly playing with each other, like just talking shit and stuff to each other. And she was kind of like in the corner, just like silently stretching. I was like, hey, what's going on? Like, so again, just having an eye for that, and again, just encouraging and stuff as much as you can.
You're really good at that, by the way. Like, you've done that to me. Actually, you did it to me this morning. Like, you knew something was off this morning with me, and you come over and you check in. And it's funny. Most people, I think, will be like, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
And you don't know what to do after that. It's like, okay, you're really not good, but you're sitting here lying to me.
Yeah.
But, and it's like, I've trusted you to the point where it's like, I think I told you this morning, I'm beating myself up about some shit.
Yeah.
I'm going to take it out in this workout.
Yeah.
And like, you're like, all right, cool, let's go.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And like, I appreciate that so much about you. Cause like you have this way of tuning into people. And I think it's the fact that we've worked together now for like 6-7 months and you
Yeah.
kind of know like, all right, he's talkative today or like, or he's going through something right now. Right.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that for sure.
Yeah.
How you're able to tune in. Cause I think you've been there. You've
Yeah.
had those days. Right.
Yeah,
And
and
you just
I-
know.
And the biggest thing with like going through this is just like you learn how to put on that fake, like that mask,
Yeah.
that fake smile, and be like, yeah, everything's fine. I'm just tired. I'm okay. Like I'll be all right. And like I can sense that when people are like, yeah, you saying that, but I get it. Like if there's something, like we can talk after class,
Yeah.
and this or everything like that. But it's just like but it's like that one of that Robin Williams quote is just like
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
the saddest people always try to make like other people so happy because they know what it feels like
yep.
to be miserable and
Yep.
stuff like that. So like when I sense that or I feel that even with the kids nowadays like that I coach, I can like I'll do my best to be like hey, what's going on and everything like that.
Yeah.
But if but I also know how to keep my distance. Like for you,
Sure.
like today, like you said, you just want to take it out on the workout. I was like, okay, like
Yeah,
let's
go.
let's throw on some weight and let's get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a good thing. It's something that you learn how to do. You just learn how to read people as well, though.
And see, and it's so important that you do that. Like you do that quick check-in because you'll never know that one little moment of caring for
Yeah.
somebody could be that short circuit of them going completely in the dark and they're going to go home after this workout and
Yeah.
do something to themselves versus like, oh shit, this guy I don't really know. I just train with, right? Like all of a sudden he cared enough to ask me because he knew something was wrong. And maybe that'll be enough to kind of nudge them back into the right direction. Like,
Yeah.
and you just never know how that's going to affect people.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times people like, oh, I want to ask them what's wrong, but I don't want to
Yeah.
say anything. It's like, no, fucking just like, if
Yeah.
if your gut is saying like, hey, something's wrong, just do a quick check-in. Like you never know what that's going to do.
Yeah,
You have
exactly.
no idea what that's going to do to someone.
Yeah.
For the person listening to this who's sitting in the darkness with their thoughts or their emotions, what do you want to say to them?
You know, well, one, I love you. I know God loves you. Just keep up the fight. It's again, like we've been talking about the whole time. Like you're gonna have good days, you're gonna have bad days. Have like a journal, have some self-reflection time on your days, and do your best to kind of as hard as it is to flip that switch from looking at all the negativity in your life and try to focus on those little bits of light that pop up, whether it be something that you talk to, something you do. Maybe you like read 10 pages in a book today, like, but also like we talked about having that list of stuff, writing down some goals that you want to accomplish, whether it be weekly, monthly, yearly.
Yep.
Do something like that so that at the end of the week or at the end of the day, you have something you can check off a list and be like, hey, I accomplished that today. You know, I'm getting better. I'm doing this more. I'm doing that more. It's tough. It's something that is like creating a habit and also creating a lifestyle, but it definitely is what helped me change. And then also finding activities that genuinely make you happy.
Right.
That's the one thing that helped me a lot as well. I got around people that were like-minded, who loved training as much as I did. I got into coaching a little bit more, and I kind of finally felt like I was in God's purpose for my life. So
Right.
I got involved with that as much as I could, and then it just really helped me get into a better mindset. And everybody was telling like, "Oh, you look so happy now. You like everything. You look great." Like, and I was like, "Yeah, like, you know, I'm still struggling, but
Sure.
like there are more good days than there are bad.
Yeah.
But it's just finding what generally makes you happy, and then also getting around people that enjoy your company, enjoy being around you, are going to lift your spirits, and also kind of reflecting to see who's in your life that's might be affecting you. There's
Yeah,
a lot of
absolutely.
I was in a lot of toxic relationships that kind of brought me down, like emotionally, financially, spiritually, and
Yeah.
everything like that. So like reflect on the relationships you have and the people that you hang out with, because that could be a big thing that might be affecting your mental state as well. Yeah, and just the biggest thing is just get some help, talk to somebody. I've gone to therapy multiple times, and the one tool that one of my old therapists gave me, he was just like, and this one thing that I think that session crushed me the most is like whenever you have those negative thoughts, write them down onto a piece of paper,
Yeah.
and then later at the end of the day before you go to bed, say those words out loud. Because when I went to that session one time, It was after just like a terrible day at work. I was an accountant at the time, so it was just like boring, and I was so bored, and I was just again alone with my thoughts. And a lot of the stuff was just I wrote down. I was like, "You're worthless. You don't deserve this life." Everything like that. But when I wrote it down, it didn't have as much effect as when I went to that session and I talked to her, and then I pulled it up on my phone and I said it, and I just kind of broke down in tears because I was just like, I speak as positively as I can to people, and to the people I train, the people I coach, the kids I coach. I'll never talk to anybody in this sense. So why am I saying those words to myself? Like if you're such an uplifting person to everybody that's so surround you, why don't you try to reflect that on yourself? And that, again, that could also go to those words of affirmation that you write on your mirror or do something in your notebook. Like write those down to say like, I am freaking awesome. And again, like we said before, you're not going to always feel it every day, but having that daily reminder or just something like that is definitely what's going to help you a lot.
Yeah, there's an author that I love. Her name's Brene Brown, and she talks about the idea about journaling, but she's got this whole thing where she calls it the shitty first draft. And basically is like, just journal out whatever you're feeling. Like it doesn't, forget grammar, forget spelling, just whatever the fuck you're feeling, just throw it up on a piece of paper, right? And like, then take a little bit of time, step back from it, and then go back and reread it, and then reread it out loud, right? And kind of see like, what's the story I'm really telling myself right now? And is this like, what part of this is actually true? What part of this is not really that true? And then if it's about somebody else, can you share this with this other person? Because you may never even know. It's like the other person may not even realize they made you feel that way or whatever, because that wasn't the intent. But it's the same principle. It's like when you can actually put it out, number one, it's going to make you feel better. Number two, when you say it out loud, you're like, holy shit, how am I talking to myself like this? Like this doesn't even make any sense, right? And it's super powerful way for you to take back control of your own emotions and your own kind of worthiness or lack of worthiness or whatever. And it helps identify like, what are the things I need to do now to get past this thing? And then, it might be something small, but you're going to take those small steps every single day to get better. And if you can have it on a piece of paper, and then it's super powerful when you look back a year from now and it's like, oh shit, like look at how I was talking to myself back then and look how I am now. Right. And it's such a effective tool to be reflective about it. So, last question, what's the legacy you want to leave on the world?
That's a great question. I honestly just want to help as many people as I can as possible. I just want to be known as a great man, a man of God, a great coach, and a great mentor. That's the biggest thing I want to leave. Like, I might not make a lot of money in my life, and that's not the most important thing. I used to be consumed by that. Like everybody puts a lot of success on money and everything nowadays, but I got into this profession because I just want to help. Like, I feel like there's so much darkness, so much pain, so much hatred in the world that like we have to have more people step up and just be willing to help people and help with their struggles. And I do that through trying to get people healthier through movement and everything like that. But also like mentoring people, especially the kids nowadays. They go, just the next generation, just showing, because I know when I struggled a lot was through athletics and all the coaches that I had growing up, and just it definitely didn't help with my mindset. But again, my legacy is I just want to be a great man of God. I want to be a great husband, a great father, a great coach, and a great trainer. That's the biggest thing, and I know I'll live the great life if I can accomplish any of those. So.
Well, you are, just for the record, and I speak on behalf of a whole bunch of people at the gym that we train at. Like, you are very well respected. Everyone loves you. I appreciate you like no other, and I tell you that every time we train together. Just for your quiet patience, the way you're able to build people up when like we're trying to do something really hard that's super uncomfortable, and it's like, nope, you're like, come on, keep going, and you give us that positive reassurance that we're looking for. And just the fact that the impact you've already had around the people that I interact with and have seen work with you is just has been tremendous. So definitely appreciate all that you're doing there. You're already making that impact, whether you realize it or not. And I'm not just saying that because you're sitting next to me. I've told you this many times, right, for the record. So I appreciate you for sure. Just if anyone's out there struggling, and you just need some help, number one, go talk to somebody, right? And if you don't have anybody to talk to, there is a National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. The number is 1-800-273-TALK. That's 1-800-273 8255. We are by no means professionals here. This is just us sharing our stories and us sharing kind of some of the things that have worked with us. But definitely, if you're at a point where you're not sure what to do, go talk to somebody, reach out to somebody. There are people out there willing to help. There are people out there going through this with you. So when you feel like you're alone and no one else is going through it, that's bullshit, because lots of us have been there. For those of you listening on audio only, this man is like, how tall are you?
6'4".
6'4". He looks like Thor. We tell him this all the time. Yeah. He is a god of a man, seriously. And if he can share his story of how he was dealing with depression and anxiety and some of the bullying, which was really interesting to hear about, because if he's like, this guy could probably crush people, and like, for him to share that, like, you are not alone, and a lot of us are going through it at the same time. So just remember, you have help. To listen to all our episodes, please visit our website at stormchamp.com. That's where you have links to all our podcasts and all of our social media. We appreciate everyone out there. Sean, my friend, it's been a pleasure.
Thank
appreciate
you for
you coming out.
Great time.
And we will see everyone later.
See you guys.